Welcome, SAG members here, and I hope you enjoyed Palm Springs, one of the best comedies in a long time. And we have the two stars here to talk about it. Very happy about that. First off, Andy Samberg, who plays Niles.
Hello.
Hey. And as Sarah, Kristen Milioti. Hi.
Hi.
I know you've talked about this a lot since it hit Sundance, but there's so much to talk about. I have to say, you walked into Sundance with this movie and walked out with a record. It sold for the biggest amount of money in the history of that film festival. That has to feel pretty good.
It felt fantastic. I think it was very fortunate for us that we hit, we arrived at Sundance in a moment when there's a lot of streamers trying to really, mark their territory and sort of announce themselves as serious about movies. And we had, luckily, a fun movie that people were interested in.
Yeah, I'll say. I think they said by about 69 cents you hit the record.
That's right.
Don't know how precise that is, but
yeah, it's on brand with the movie, I think.
Right. Normally, we associate your films in a lot of ways with Lonely Island and that whole thing, your creative setup there. This one came about differently, didn't it?
It did, yes. It was a script that came to me, just asking if I wanted to act in it and or possibly produce, but it's tonally, something that I felt like it was in my wheelhouse, but not quite as broad or arched comedically as some of that other stuff. There's a lot. I don't want to disparage the Lonely Island stuff, but I feel like this has a little bit more on its mind. It's, it's a little more serious. It blends genres a little bit more. There's an existential dread to it, which I think was something that we all were really excited about.
What about for you, Kristen? What about this character of Sarah? She's complex.
Well, that's one of the things that I really loved about her is that, you sort of, you get to see the whole spectrum with her. Like I got to play every aspect of a human going through a variety of things. And she's so flawed. You understand how she got herself in the position she's in and why she's so desperate to escape it. When I read it, I was like, oh my God, there is so much here to dig into. What an incredible opportunity. And then also to work with Andy, who I'd met with. And I thought that the script was so singular and unique. That's also one of the things that I loved so much about Sarah is that everyone knows, regardless of whether you are on the same path as her, what it's like to feel like you're like boiled in your own shame. And I think something she does as a defense mechanism, which I had a lot of compassion for and understanding for, we are all guilty of this at various times too, of like, it's everyone's fault but mine, of like not wanting to look at your own culpability in something. It's why I've always felt like this movie is, when we do press for it, they ask, they're like, oh, it's a romantic comedy. And I've always thought of it more as an existential comedy. And it's actually kind of a Zen movie that like, you can't run away from anything. You have to like come back to yourself, and that all you're left with is yourself. And I felt like that with her, the pain of not wanting to accept that was one of my favorite parts of the film.
I loved the role of Niles because it was something that I was comfortable with comedically, and I knew I had that to fall back on, periodically throughout the movie. But I also just love the bait and switch of him emotionally, and sort of like what you think he is when you first meet him versus what you come to realize about him, which is he seems like, he's in charge of it all. He's got it all figured out. He's totally zen and he's totally at peace. But the truth is you're looking at a character who is so broken that he is completely given up. And to me, like in a very sad way, that was very funny also. I was just like, I've never seen exactly that tone written in this way, where it was making me laugh, but also my heart really broke for him, where you're not sure if he even really does remember his own life or who he was and what he was about. And you kind of get the feeling he's okay with it because he wasn't really happy with it. You know, there's little hints teed up throughout. He's in a relationship that's clearly not working, and he's allowing that to just sort of happen to him. And you get the sense he was allowing that to happen before he got stuck. So there's this wonderful metaphor that our writer, Andy Ciara, threads through the whole thing for both of us, which is they're stuck and they're stuck.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's
yeah, the time loop is almost like irrelevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the decision they make at the end is, it doesn't matter what happens after, it's that they made the decision is what matters, that they decided to, you know, be participants in their own lives, choose to forgive themselves, choose to believe they are deserving of love and happiness, and choose to do that together.
Was that the original ending, or did you have others? I would imagine this kind of story would lend itself to a couple of ways to end it, at least.
There were many different versions of the very end, you know, the post-cave.
Yeah, we shot a bunch of different endings.
Yes. But ultimately, even in the first draft I saw, which structurally the third act changed a lot when we all worked on it together and did a rewrite, the main choice of the two of them together, choosing each other and choosing to brave moving forward together in one way, shape, or form, was intact. And then we kind of amped it up once we had financing.
What was your favorite moment that you sort of got to do, you know, on the fly that wasn't in the script?
My favorite thing personally, which was the scene that you're talking about, like on the fly.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I have favorite things that I like got to do in this movie, but on the thing on the fly was that there's the scene where like it's in the montage where Andy's like, I'm a bomb guy with a cake and I'm the villain, and I didn't tell him that I was going to have like a hook and an eye patch and an accent, because it was like part of that Niles wouldn't know that, and that like Sarah was able to get that stuff at like a CVS down the road, and like that was hilarious and fun. Also, like we collaborated on the dick tattoos, like which we stole. That was like one of the most fun. Like, did we? I can't remember though. Andy, did I like? I know we had that. Was that day of, or was that like the day before that happened?
We had been talking about really wanting to have a moment where they give each other tattoos. We were just talking about like if you had a day where you could do anything and then it resets and there's no repercussion, tattoo is like a big one. We'd be like, well, I would love to know what that experience is like.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, what's the nightmare version of that you can then laugh about because it's not real forever. Right. Was him asking for a cool tattoo and her drawing a dick on him. And then we were like, well, if we're going to do that, we should have him doing it too. But then we were excited about the idea that she was asking specifically for a dick tattoo.
Exactly. Yeah. And like we stole that shot as we were losing light, like out in the desert. And it was like part of the like madcap. I don't know. There was, I felt like so free with Andy as a partner that like we were constantly talking about this stuff, because also we're like stuck in a car a million hours a day. Like we're running lines constantly because we had a very brutally short shoot. So we were constantly running lines, constantly running scenes. I think that energy is like in there.
A short version of what we're saying is we never considered the script locked. We kept trying to add and you know, figure out new angles on things. And, you know, we added certain scenes that ended up in the movie, you know, during shooting. We'd like jot them down on our phones and then hand it to the actors and we'd give them a try. And some of that stuff worked and some didn't.
Yeah. Did you have to cut out a lot or was most of the script in there, or, you know, did do stuff in the editing room?
Most of it is in there. Some of it got repurposed and sort of rearranged, which I have to say on a really short schedule was kind of the blessing of having it be a loop where a lot of footage is at the same locations.
Yeah. Right.
So you could, you know, sort of dip into reaction passes and move them to other scenes when you need them and you need a bridge a shot and that kind of stuff. The most glaring one was we had Kristen memorize this really long, you know, scientific run in the scene where she's explaining why her plan might work. And we consulted, you know, with a real scientist. And
who's
worked out a lot of stuff, you know, about the Cauchy horizon and all this stuff. And and
black holes and
and, you know, interdeterministic. I said it wrong, but you get the idea.
Interdeterministic. I used to know the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of it, you know, within the rules of the world we created really tracked and we were all really excited about and it made sense and Kristen did a great job with it. And then when we started doing our friends and family screenings and kind of feeling it out, we realized people just were good without it. You know, they were more tracking the emotional story.
Yeah.
So that That was probably the biggest lift. I don't think there's a single whole scene we cut, though. Most of it ended up on screen.
So all that work with quantum physics and all of that is for the Blu-ray?
Yes.
Yeah, it's for the Blu-ray. Yeah.
By the way, I feel like we keep talking about this. I bet you if we saw it, it'd be like 25, 30 seconds that we cut out.
You think so? God, it felt like, I mean, I spent days memorizing that monologue. It felt long.
It was dense stuff.
Yeah, dense stuff.
I love the whole concept of time loop. Of course, Groundhog Day, Russian Doll, more recently, it's been used. This one felt very fresh to me for some reason. It's not like, okay, I've seen this. They're kind of copying a genre. It's becoming a genre.
Yeah.
It seemed like it served the story and it served these characters in that way.
Well, good. That was certainly our hope. You know, when the script first came to me and to our company, we didn't know about this new wave of them that was coming. I joked with Natasha, like, I probably should have checked in with you to see what you were up to, because Russian Doll was really fucking good. And we didn't know it existed when we took the movie on. But, you know, in our mind, it was like, okay, there was Groundhog Day, then there was Edge of Tomorrow, which is the sci-fi version. And then we'll be like the hard R version that's like kind of indie and edgy. And then by the time we were actually shooting, we were like, oh man, there's a lot of time loop stuff. But then after we shot, even more came out and we were like, I think we actually might be okay, because now there's so many that, like you say, I think it's kind of just become its own category. And we felt the more we watched, the more ours really did kind of define itself on its own terms.
I've known Max Barbacoa since he was much younger and growing up in Santa Barbara.
Oh, awesome.
You know, and so when I heard he got a movie, like, I knew he went to AFI and he did some great shorts and things. What was that like? You're bringing in not Lonely Island here. He's a first-time feature film director.
Yes. I mean, they came together, Max and Andy. They were at AFI together and they conceived this movie together. And, you know, brainstormed it a bunch. And so the deal from day one was, here's this script and here's the director. And he hasn't made a movie, but he's made this short film. And we were like, okay. And we loved the script and we met with both of them. And we were like, it just feels good. Like everyone's on the same page. We've got a good infrastructure here just in case, you know. We've got Akiva as a producer who is a very talented director. So he knows a lot. We've got me who've produced a lot, and we were just off and running. You know, we hired a great DP in Q Tran who killed it, and her and Max were on the same page immediately. Mm-hmm. And the thing we've been saying a lot, and it really was true, was it was just one of those fortunate situations creatively where we were all in it together from the jump. We all saw it really similarly. I think the reason Andy and Max were excited to do the movie with us was because when we first met, we were saying what they wanted to hear tonally. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was a little outside the normal thing that I would do. You know, we knew coming in we were going to have a low budget, and that the scheduling was going to be really hard. And the scheduling was really hard. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, when you got into that editing room, we have great shots and great performances, and the movie works. You know, that's I don't feel trepidation saying that. I've worked on a lot of things where I came out the other end and I was like, I don't know if it worked, but I feel like this one, we made the thing that on day one, when we all met, we wanted to make. And a huge part of that goes to Max and Andy, obviously. It's their movie. They conceived the whole thing.
I'm curious, though, you said you didn't have that much time to shoot it. How much time did you have? How much pressure was on you to pull this thing off?
I believe the shoot was 21 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's no joke.
It was real. But, but you know, everybody was just about their business. Everyone came really strong. And, you know, that's the kind of thing you can do when you have a script you believe in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you have a company that's as much on the same page, like, you know, we've said this before in interviews too, and it's just because it was so overwhelming. Like no one was doing this for the money except JK. But, but like the whole crew, like we were out there like in these brutal elements, and everyone believed in this story and like just threw it all at the wall. And like, not to sound sort of like Pollyanna about it, but actually like the zaniness of that shoot, the how fast we had to do it. Like you kind of had to just, everyone was going with like their first instinct, and everyone had done like a lot of prep with it too. And it actually was kind of like an incredible, I mean, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but like you just kind of got to like let go. And it all came together, I think, because we all, I don't know, it's like one of like the magic fairy dust things about making something that you can never predict, but that like we all sort of were in the same world or whatever.
Was it always called Palm Springs? Because the title is, you know, I mean, it doesn't really tell you, you know, going in cold what this movie is going to be about. Was there thoughts of other titles, or did you just like that?
It was always Palm Springs, and we always loved it. It was a few times it would come up casually in conversation, and I would always say, sure, let's talk about it. What else you got? And no one really could ever come up with anything they liked better. Because I don't know, there's just something so clean about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a gamble. You're like, you know, if people don't like the movie, it's really going to be in trouble with the title. But if they do, then it has a chance to just be nice and clean. And like, now there's something called Palm Springs, and it's this.
Yeah.
Well, now that this is over, do you guys want to work together again? Do you have anything going on? No.
We're good.
It's over for
One
you
and done.
too?
One and done.
One and done. Yeah. No,
of
I
course.
was constantly pitching Andy the whole time. I was like, so the next thing that we do together, let's make this a thing. Let's be like, you know, Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I was like, you know, let's do this. Let's make this a thing.
Yes.
I pitched all types of stuff to you.
We're excited.
And it fell on deaf ears.
Yeah.
And he was very clear that he was not interested.
I was always listening to my headphones, and she just didn't know. And I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
We don't have anything yet, but we want to. We're gonna try. Now we're actor friends.
Yeah. We're gonna do a comedic version of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in like 10 years. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
By the way, I don't hate that.
I don't hate that either.
Yeah.
I'll start drinking now.
Congratulations on this. This has been going front of mind for a lot of people all the way since it debuted at Sundance, and it's still going strong on Hulu. I should mention Hulu. And thanks for joining us here for this SAG conversation today with your fellow actors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.